Check this.
Welcome back to Chaotic Strategies. This week we're going to be going over the world's greatest board game, Monopoly. There is a secret behind the development of this game that not a whole lot of people know about. As far as most people are concerned, this game was developed in the mid to late 1930s and it kind of exploded from there, but this game goes much further back than that, by about 30 years. So we're going to go ahead and get started with the secret history of Monopoly. In about early 1900s, about 1903, there was a woman by the name of Lizzie Magie who actually started to build this game. She was very left-wing. She was a feminist. Her role model was Henry George. During that time, Henry George believed in a single tax system. So she wanted to get her political views out there and understood during this time. And this was a time where board games were really starting to pick up in America. Everybody wanted to play the games. They loved the games. They were great pastimes. So she decided to build this game. The name of the game was called Landlords. And the whole object was just to show how the capitalists, the evils, I guess, of capitalists in her mind, of taking land, raising taxes, and just making it hard for the average person to live. It was very political. And the game took off. She got it patented with Parker Brothers in about 1906, and the game took off. And it was a widely popular game for the next 30 years. A lot of people ended up actually taking her game and making their own in several ways. And that actually caused a pretty big problem for her with the patent office after she got patented, because these people would change the game and then they would repatent that version of the game, so on and so forth. It actually got to the point where Quakers in Atlantic City during that time actually changed a lot of the play sets on the board. That's where you get like your Baltic Avenue, Boardwalk, Atlantic City. Just all of those came from the Quakers there in Atlantic City. Then of course they rebranded their version of the game. Then it became Monopoly in the mid to late 1930s. It was about 1936 that a guy by the name of Charles, I believe his name was Darrow, was playing this game of Landlords with a friend of theirs, and he really enjoyed the game. So he asked his friend, they played this game multiple times, and he asked his friend if he could get written rules for the game. So his friend made him a copy of the board game, so they had their own, gave him written rules. Well, he completely re-verbalized a lot of the rules. He changed the look of the board and then went to Parker Brothers and rebranded this game as Monopoly as we know it now, and it took off. All the new colors, the new pieces, the new rulings, the different ways that you played the game. I mean, it was a hit. And he made a bunch of money. I mean, millions off of this game, because he kind of did it the right way. He got it patented, sold the rights, got royalties off of it, where Lizzie did not. She didn't collect any royalties from her Landlords game. She got $500 and her face on the box. So over time, from 1930s to about 1970s, Lizzie Magie just kind of fell to the wayside. I mean, she died a widow, she was pretty well broke, and that was it. Well, 1970s come around, and there was a gentleman that was trying to make a anti-Monopoly game, and he was under heavy legal issues from Parker Brothers over this game, and it lasted a decade. This lawsuit and everything lasted a decade. Well, in his, I guess, research for his case, he came across Lizzie Magie, and discovered that she was the one that actually came up with the first idea of this game, Landlords. And it was because of this guy that she was actually, Hasbro, which now owns Parker Brothers, actually considers her a name on the name of Monopoly. So it just kind of it goes to show that during those times, in my opinion, I think she got taken advantage of because she was a woman trying to make this game. Ralph Anspach, I believe is how you pronounce his last name, was the one that had the lawsuit with Parker Brothers, making anti-monopoly and going around that whole deal. But she got taken advantage of, I think, because she was a woman, and she just didn't. She was very leftist, and I think during that time it was still very right wing. So I mean, there's a lot of factors that go into that. She didn't patent it the right way from the research that I did. It wasn't patented right. She didn't ask for royalties. She was just trying to get her political view out there. But when she found out that Charles Darrow had made this Monopoly game that was based off of hers, she fought it. She tried to fight it. She had numerous interviews in several big political magazines trying to get her name out there, and she eventually lost. She lost a lawsuit against Parker Brothers, against Charles Darrow. He did it right. He saved it from the patent office. He completely revamped the game and repatented it as his. So there's a big contrary on who's right or wrong and who really was the inventor of this game of Monopoly. So you really kind of have two different games, Monopoly and Landlords. I'm not going to give my opinion on it because it could go both ways. A little bit about Landlords, though, was that Lizzie Haggie actually had two ways to play the game. One would be considered now a more socialist aspect, I believe you could say that. So whenever one of the more rich game players would actually make money, everybody made some sort of money off of their winnings. So when it really came down to it, everybody won with that version of the game. The other version is the game that we know now. You're going to buy property, you're going to force your opponents into poverty in order to win the game. That's just the way everybody loved to play the game. That's how we still love to play the game, and so that's kind of what stuck. Since then, there has been numerous amounts of Monopoly games out there. I mean, we have digital Monopoly now. McDonald's came out with their version of, Monopoly. We've got, I can't even tell you how many different Monopoly actually game boards there are. Here in the Chaos Zone, we own 6-7 different Monopoly boards of different types and play styles and many more. We love the game of Monopoly. So an interesting fact about Monopoly is during World War II, I found this out in my research. It's something I didn't know. We actually used Monopoly to send maps and various goods and items to our POWs over in Germany. We actually hid them inside the game boards and sent them maps to help them try to escape the POW camps. Very, very interesting. Monopoly has had a lot of interesting things throughout history. This game was used for. From what I found out, some speakeasies actually used Monopoly to hide secret messages and maps as well. There's so many different things that have been myths and mystery tied into this game. It's really an incredible game, and the deeper I dug into the history, the more that I found out about it. I could go on and on and on about Monopoly. There's a lot of history on this game, and it would take up a lot of time, and we're just not going to do that, just so you guys aren't sitting here for an hour watching a complete history breakdown of Monopoly. I will tell you that today Monopoly still has a story to tell as far as the way the game plays. If you still play the original Monopoly, its whole breakdown is designed to show you how there is an economical imbalance between the rich, the middle class, and the poor. Obviously the person with all the property, all the money, wins. And if you look at it into a political or economical aspect, it's a broken system. It's a pyramid scheme. It can be, and you know, we still have a lot of that going on around the world, not just within our own country, but around the world. But there are some good aspects to the game as well that we here use to teach our kids, and I've seen and read about teachers and other parents and families that use the game the same way. We actually use our Monopoly game to teach our kids mathematics. When you're the banker, teach basic addition, subtraction. We also teach them about the taxes, why you have to pay these certain taxes when you land on this piece, and we kind of explain to them real basic economics, try to get them prepared for the real world. And then my favorite part of it, which is probably why I'm not allowed to play Monopoly with my family anymore, is just the looks in their faces when you completely and totally crush them because you took all of their properties, took all their money, and they are broke and won the game. So it's a very fun game to play. It's a very long game to play, and it's a very competitive game to play. This game takes hours to play, can take hours to play, and when you have that kind of time dedicated into the game, the last thing that you want to do is lose the game. So with that, that's kind of just this is just a very brief history of this game. It is very detailed. There's a lot to it, especially when Daro was starting to take over and repatent the game. It was just it was a mess, and unfortunately for Lizzie Haggie, she didn't get anything out of it at all. She got $500, which during that time was quite a bit of money, but she didn't get any recognition. She got her face on the box of the landlord's game, and that was essentially it. And it also goes to show, whenever you make a game like this and you try to throw it out to the world, you know, people are going to make it your own. You may have that one particular game branded, but it can always be changed, modified, and made better, and somebody else is going to repatent it. And that's exactly what happened to Lizzie Haggie. So yeah, just next week on our channel, we are going to go over just some tips and tricks on how to play Monopoly, come out ahead, and kind of show you why I'm not allowed to play with my family anymore. So as always, guys, like, subscribe, leave me comments. You can follow us on Facebook at The Strategist 88, Twitter at The Strategist 88, and of course right here on YouTube. You guys have a good night. Wash your hands. Be safe. We'll see you in the next video.